with Keren.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Keren, and today we're interviewing my friend and client Lee, who purchased a house this past year in Vernon, New Jersey. So we're going to talk to her a little bit about her experience. Good morning, Lee.
Hey, good morning.
How are you?
Pretty good. Thank you.
Good. So we're here today to find out a lot of things about your transaction and how your search felt. So let's start all the way in the beginning. When did your search start?
2 years ago, it was in the midst of the COVID pandemic, and we figured we lived up in Bergen County, and it was becoming too crowded, and we were looking for more nature, a more relaxed atmosphere. We were looking for a different school system for our kids, and we had started looking in the Sussex County area. And we used to come down here to ski in Mountain Creek. And one of the times when we skied, we saw a sign with the name Keren Cares, and we were like, oh, I mean, that name sounds somewhat familiar. It sounds Israeli, and we're Israelis. At that point, we had already been looking for houses in that area in Zillow. So we texted you, and we're like, okay, well, she's,
It's Friday night. She's
it's
never
Friday
going to
night.
answer.
She's going to answer on a Sunday, and we're like, should we text, should we not text, whatever. We texted, and then you immediately called, and we were like, oh, wow, like, she's very available, motivated and nice. We talked a bit, and we had sent you a house that we saw in Zillow.
Right.
That we really wanted. And immediately you called the realtor for that house, and you let us know that that may not be a good option for us to purchase due to some complications specifically with that house.
Right. It had tenants in it. I remember.
And we're like, no, we want this house. And as we discovered later, tenants are a big issue.
Right, when you're trying to buy a house that has tenants in it. And would you say it's important that you spoke to someone who knows the local market and local agents and the condition of the houses?
I think what we've learned through this process that it's important to have a realtor that knows other realtors and is friendly and maybe is on their good side, because it's harder to make transactions and work with other realtors who are representing a certain house if you don't have that kind of local friendly realtor who can advocate for you and really get to the bottom. We could have spent a lot of time on that house, wasting a lot of time not knowing, it has tenants and all the issues. So it was really helpful. I think one of the things that we appreciated during our transaction working with you is that you were always honest and saying it like it is, even if it's not something that we wanted to hear. But, a house that have tenants is just not a good choice for us. It could have gotten us into a lot of legal complications that we didn't need. So we just moved on with our search. As time passed, we were in a bit of a crunch because the school year was about to start. And you've helped us see, we've seen a lot of houses together, but then we just couldn't find something that we wanted. And I appreciate you were very patient with us because we couldn't verbalize what we wanted. We just saw houses and we knew that's not it. Not even that moment. We had to sleep on it, and then the morning after we're like, okay, that's not a house that we wanted. As we saw more and more houses with you, you helped us verbalize better what we want.
Right, because it was important that we pinpointed what it was that you guys actually needed. And then I remember asking you, tell me what you want, let's make a wish list, and tell me what you need. Because those are not necessarily the same exact things. And it also depends on where you want to be, your location, how close do we want to be to the school, how close do we want to be to family, how close do we want to be to friends. Are we living in a nice neighborhood? This is why it's really important that you speak to someone that is a local expert. I definitely agree with the working with someone that's friendly with others. There are a lot of times where agents try to get information, but because they're not necessarily on the best terms, they can't. So I think that was definitely a big part. And we ended up getting a really great house after putting in offers and offers falling through, because that part was not fun.
Yes, definitely. And I think something else that I really appreciated is that you're not only a realtor. Like at times you were like a couple counselor, psychologist, because my partner and I used to fight. Like, I like this house, I don't like this house,
Right.
you know. And it's very hard to work with couples. And somebody wants this house and somebody doesn't want this house, but you were able to kind of maneuver and very elegantly not get in between, but also help us kind of work as a unit.
Yeah, I think one of the things that's really stressful is purchasing a house, because for most people, it's the most expensive thing you will ever buy in your lifetime. And so it's very stressful. And you guys were also selling a house where you were living, and so you already had an offer, we were rushing through, what are we gonna do? But the last thing I wanted is for you guys to buy a house. My purpose was not to sell you a house. My purpose was to find you the place that's going to make you happy. So for me, it's never about the money that I make. For me, it's more about putting people in places that they will enjoy, hopefully for the rest of their lives. Situations do change in life. And so sometimes you need to downsize, sometimes you have additional family. And as a result of that, our transaction has to be more fluid. We have to be more flexible. And I think a lot of agents are not just agents, we're therapists, we are couples therapists, we are psychologists, like you said. I think it's important to work with someone that understands you, but also can refocus you. Because if you're all over the place, and Sussex County is huge, we're gonna be seeing houses 2 hours away and houses that are close by. So for us to be able to pinpoint where you guys wanted to be was really important. Tell me, Lee, are there any things that you found out during the transactions that you were not aware? Because you're very enlightened and so is your partner. And the two of you together, and Israelis in general, are just very opinionated and very loud and very strong. Not that Americans are not, but Israelis definitely are. So is there anything specific that you learned during the transaction that maybe you can enlighten our audience?
So something that we didn't know into this specific area is HOAs. This is not something that we've encountered in the New York area or the Bergen County, New Jersey area, which HOAs are associations that kind of group a few houses and collect a monthly or a quarterly amount of money for services to provide to the community. So I think you helped us a lot figuring out like what HOA is. Should we, one of our biggest decisions, do we want an HOA? Do we not want an HOA? Like, can we enjoy being a part of the community or not? It has pros and cons. You know, everybody has their own personal opinion. So I think that is something that we did a lot of research on, and you helped us kind of understand. There are also several different HOAs in the area. So one of them, right. I remember we were looking at houses in a very specific area, and and you said it right. So the demographics here may not be young families as you are, and that is something that was crucial for us because
that's what you wanted.
We wanted a community with young kids and not disturb older people who want to come and chillax. And that's why they came to an HOA. It's like the Florida of New Jersey, kind of.
Right, exactly. Yeah, so. I think in that area, we did see houses in those communities, because you never know as an agent what your clients are actually looking for, and some people do look for the HOAs even with kids. For you guys, for your family, it didn't work. We still saw houses, because one thing that I'm very big on is showing you whatever you want to see for you to decide what's good for you.
Yes, that was extremely helpful. And do you remember, speaking of psychologists, I have a fear of water, of like flood zones. It's just something that I have
as a result of your experience with your other house.
Right. So we bought a house, not knowing, with a different agent, of course, not, knowing it's a flood zone, but not knowing the ramifications, which we later discovered. So coming coming to Keren, we're like, we don't want to live near water, which is, in this area, you have a lot of beautiful lakes.
Yes, you do.
And people look for that. So that was also something that we appreciate your patience and like working with us. and knowing we saw this gorgeous house that we almost took next to, it was, I feel like it was a federal water reserve, reservoir. We ended up not taking it. Yeah, so you were very patient with, my personal OCD and issues, finding that perfect house for us, navigating that terrain of different factors that would affect our dream house.
And how do you feel now that you live in Vernon?
We feel great. I mean, our school, the kids are doing great at the school they're at. Every day when you drive either to work or to school, or you just look at the mountains and breathe fresh air and see cows walking by you, and it's absolutely relaxing and amazing, and we feel very fortunate waking up every day.
It's like being on vacation.
Yes, that's true. That's absolutely true. Definitely fortunate to have found you and work with you for so long just to find that house. And I appreciate you with other agent that we have worked in the past, at some point when you don't buy a house after 6 months, you may be ghosted or thinking, oh, that person is not serious, they're not going to buy a house, but you stuck with us and responded to texts earlier in the day and later in the day and weekends, and we ended up doing it, which is great.
Well, that's probably because I'm super stubborn. Just in case you guys didn't know, if you work with me, I will find you a house, whether you like it or not. We're gonna find a house that you're gonna love, because that's important too. People do get frustrated, and sometimes you want to take a step back and say, okay, I need some time. I need to relax a little bit, collect my thoughts, and come back to the table when I'm ready. So it's definitely important that you take that hiatus, should you choose to do it, and then come right back. But for me, I was gonna find you guys a house no matter what.
Right, and there was open communication. If we needed space, we could definitely tell you. And
absolutely, because it does get really frustrating during the transaction when, let's say, you put in an offer and then you don't get it, but you were set on that house. Your heart was set. You were sure this was going to be the house. I remember there was one house in Glenwood that was fairly new that your partner really liked, and he was so upset when we didn't get it. And I told my partner, I was like, listen, I don't know how this is gonna go, because I know they're upset, they loved the house, but in the end, that wasn't the right house for us. And that's what we found out. I was just
telling him last week, aren't you happy? We were just having a regular dinner with the kids and blah, blah, blah. And I was like, aren't you happy we didn't take that house? And he was like, well, but I'm very happy because, things happen for a reason.
Absolutely.
And even though we didn't get that house, we ended up with a house that I think is better for our family and our needs.
Right, so sometimes we would see houses together. I do have a partner that I work with, and sometimes he would show it to you alone if I had something else that I needed to do. Did you feel at any point that you were not getting good service because I wasn't there?
I loved working with Owen. I think he's a great addition that complements the service that you offer, because he's very, very good with reviewing foundation of houses and more like technical aspects of houses. We did meet him a few times to see houses, and he's great. I mean, we loved working with him, and actually it increases your availability, because even if we're busy with a different client, I remember a lot of time we texted you, this is a house we want to see, can you meet today? Can you meet tomorrow? I guess, you're booked and you have other clients, so it helps when there is another person there with availability to show you houses. And a lot of the houses, you see them and it's a yes, it's a no. All you need is just to see them.
Right, and all he needed to do is to provide access to you. But what I hear you saying is that being with him and having him show you houses was just as good as seeing it with me or with both of us. Because that's one thing that's really important to us at Keren Cares team, that if I'm not available, he's available, and this way we can be more flexible with our schedule and service our clients better, which is what we ultimately aim to do.
That's true, and when you buy a house, you're going to see it multiple times anyway. You just need that one time, the first time, just to see that you're interested. A lot of the times, from the get-go, that's not your dream house just from seeing it the first time. So definitely working with a team and not one individual is very helpful, because in today's market you have to be competitive, you have to see a house very early on and be able to know if you're going to possibly put an offer or not.
Good. Is there anything that you'd like to share with our audience, something that you would have never thought would have come up during the process, during the transaction, whether it was something with inspection, something with your search, something maybe between us as your agents? Is there anything that you want to share that other people may not know?
I think for us personally, something that had really helped is our relationship after the purchase. A lot of realtors kind of like sell you a house and then, okay, I got my money, bye. But, you know, Keren Cares is not just a slogan. You really care, and we kept in contact, and we kept asking you questions about things that are kind of like indigenous to this area that we just didn't know coming from outside of this area. You know, you always offered help. You actually shared your contacts with different people. It was the first time we owned a pool. We had no idea what to do. And Oren helped us tremendously with figuring out the process of doing that. I think I just texted you last week. What do you do
for a hairdresser?
Like anything, Keren Cares. So Keren can provide, you know, additional information even after you move in,
Right.
which is something that had worked phenomenally for us because we're new to the area. We don't have family here, so you're our family.
And I'm happy to be part of your family. Well, this has been another Coffee with Keren session, and we always want to give props to the Daily Bean, which is a local coffee shop right on 515 in Vernon. We love their stuff. They have coffee and food.
Amazing coffee.
And lots of local vendors sell products in the shop. So stop on by and take a look.
Cheers.
Cheers.